Hey YouTube world, we are back with another handbag discussion. I know I've been doing a lot of unboxings recently. I've just been completely backed up. However, you know, this is a handbag community. It's not just about unboxing, as fun as it is for both you and me, but we like to take a little bit of a deeper dive into why we do the things we do and why do we collect the things we collect, right? And first things first, for most of the handbag loving community, let's just all admit we are handbag hoarders, at least to some degree when it comes to buying the handbags, right? We obviously can make this topic applicable to any category really, but in the world of luxury, the major focus will be handbags, shoes, SLGs, jewelry, and watches. I thought it would be an interesting conversation as I've been seeing like the whole Labubu craze and the tag video of so nice I bought it twice, or maybe thrice, just a bunch more times. And floating around for my For You page nonstop. And there are plenty of other channels that have been talking about overconsumption. This is not a new topic, but figure I jump in on this trend here, and which I know I'm definitely guilty of. So I thought it would be interesting to at least address the issue of what I have and maybe you have as well, as the first step to recovery is to recognize that you have a problem. So just to touch on, you know, the Labubus, the Stanley Cups, etc. I feel like this is the result of FOMO, and you want what you cannot have, right? Which ultimately is the definition of designer and luxury goods, right? Where it's the exclusivity and not everybody has it, and that's what makes you special if you were to carry this particular handbag or wear this particular luxury coat. And who does it best? Hermes and Rolex. They call it the Rolex effect for a very good reason. So I'm trying this liquid death called Dead Billionaire, which is basically an Arnold Palmer. Liquid death is actually really good at marketing as well, but in a different aspect. So I'm just trying this out. Tastes pretty good for a really hot summer day. Anyway, so going back to what my original question is, do you hoard handbags? Okay, so let's put it in a more PC kind of way. Are you a handbag collector? I did a whole entire video on this topic in general already. If you haven't seen that video, go check that out. But basically, I asked the initial question of how many bags do you really need? And I wanted to double click on that. Oh my God, did I just use corporate terminology, corporate speak into handbags? When I keep seeing the whole topic of so nice, I bought it twice, I just find this concept incredibly fascinating. Before I get into the different points, this is not a dig on anybody. Everybody is completely different. I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money, you know. Remember, I'm just some random faceless chick on YouTube, expressing what rolls around in my head on a daily basis. So let's quickly touch on why we collect things in the first place. The most basic primitive function of civilization is to hunt and gather resources, right? You take those resources, you store them somehow to start bartering and build equity with, right? Then in turn, we have become a community/society that collectively do the same thing. Since then, in the modern world, we've turned the whole entire hunting and gathering methodology and turned it into a hobby, finding ways to be part of a community and based on common interests. This can be applicable to just about any category, but we're just focusing on luxury products today. And to me, it is building equity, in my opinion. Yes, I know you're all gonna tell me that buying luxury is not an investment. To that, I will answer yes and no at the same time. If you can sell bags or like jewelry pieces that, you know, I'm wearing for a significant amount of money, then there is equity in the product. So obviously the amount of equity is variable, kind of like a house, right? You may sell your house for a profit or at a loss, but you would still get some sort of money back, and that is equity. The condition of the house, the desirability of the location of where the house is, are all factors that will contribute to your sale price. All right, just to help my example, I brought a visual aid to continue in the handbag language on the concept I'm talking about. An Hermes bag generally will retain its value, and if you get a newer one, or perhaps it's a special edition, it will go over retail. So, and then again, another real life example, just like a house in the Hamptons, right? If you have an old cottage house there, it's probably gonna be one of the most expensive old cottage house you will ever buy. Again, entry-level bag at Hermes, this is kind of like that old cottage house, because this is the PM Generation 1, which I love. If you haven't seen that review, go check that out. Now, if you have a mansion in the Hamptons, it's like a Himalayan Birkin. I don't have a visual aid for that, but this is what a Himalayan Birkin looks like. And we know that anything in the Hamptons is a desirable location, hence the pricing of those particular houses or Hermes pieces generally will retain its value and it's considered a good investment. However, there's also other handbags or other properties that is considered a trend where it can go up and down depending on the time period, right? Again, in handbag language, in my opinion, Miu Miu is a very trendy kind of brand, and it hasn't been in the longest time, and it just got brought back. So Miu Miu bags in general doesn't hold its value over the decades, and I kind of like Miu Miu as a brand currently because of the fresh new take on it. It's much more simpler. Back in the day, Miu Miu was just like, ugh, what is that? Like, the JJ bag, like I can't, like that is not something that interests me at all, and I don't understand why anybody would want that kind of bag. And a lot of them, they age poorly because there's just too many folds, All right, I am painting a very graphic picture here. And when Miu Miu took a resurgence in popularity, the resale value has, you know, skyrocketed over the past few years. So again, talking about it in like housing value, you could take a look at Detroit, right? Detroit's real estate had skyrocketed back in the late 1990s, and then it plummeted after 2008. And finally, now in like 2024, 2025, it's starting to increase again. And I'm just using Detroit because I recently drove past Detroit, you know, stopped by for their Detroit style pizza. It was fantastic, but I could see how, you know, there are certain areas that's still pretty dilapidated, and then you've got the trendy, you know, hip spots that are rebuilding. Now, obviously that's a really extreme example, but I'm just trying to find a real life example that would be comparable to what we've seen with Miu Miu, where they are, nobody talks about them, their stuff isn't worth anything, and now everything is shooting back up for the secondary market. Another example I would say is probably Chloe, right? Chloe and their Paddington line from Phoebe Philo, that plummeted to, I want to say, $200-300, and now because they're re-releasing it, it's now up to thousands of dollars, which is like mind-blowing. All that to say, as always, there is an exception to every rule. Like any investment, you are taking a risk. You may win or lose depending on the product you pick, be it a Birkin, a Cartier bracelet, or maybe a Rolex Daytona. Now that we've covered that logic, let's go back to collecting and building equity. I'm gonna focus on handbags, but again, remember, this topic could be applicable to cars, jewelry, boats, you name it, right? So in my opinion, there are two major kinds of handbag collectors. The first one is, You're gonna laugh at this. I was trying to come up with a good terminology, and I think this works, right? The number one kind of collector, major collector, is the monogamous collector. Number two is the polygamous collector. And of course, you've got people that's somewhere in between, right? It's not like you are one or the other, but there is a tendency of being one or the other. When I say monogamous collector, I mean, for example, you are a die-hard Louis Vuitton fan, and basically they've built their entire channel, or you, as if you're not a YouTuber, you have built your entire collection with Louis Vuitton, right? Some people do Coach, some people do Longchamp. And I think Louis Vuitton and Coach, based on my observations, are probably the most predominant ones. And of course, you also see people who only spend money at Hermes, right? Once you take that brand loyalty of being a monogamous collector for that particular brand, you take it another step. And some people have, let's just say again, going back to Longchamp, where they have 50 different Longchamp Le Pliage totes in all kinds of different colors. And then maybe 20 more that have, you know, the medium size, the large size, the travel size, et cetera, et cetera. Or perhaps you have, you know, the Louis Vuitton Neverfull in 3 different sizes and all the different, you know, monograms, Damier, Azul, and Emprunt, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, all of the different limited editions as well. For the monogamous collectors, it really interests me on the thought process on why you decided to pick one specific brand over another. Is it because you like the brand's history, like the heritage? Is it because of a personal kind of experience? Is it their designs and maybe you like a particular creative director, and because you fell in love with that creative director, you then fell in love with the brand and so on and so forth? Is it because of the craftsmanship, functionality of that particular model, deciding for you to buy 50 of the same totes, right? I'm not asking for a friend. I'm literally asking you if you are a monogamous collector. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you decide to do so and some other people don't. Let us know, how do you collect and why do you collect the way you do? Or if you have absolutely no structure, no rhyme or reason for purchasing the bags that you do purchase and it's just straight chaos, let us know as well. I recently saw an Instagram post about an estate sale of a guy who is actually here in the Chicago suburbs that collected Pyrex, and apparently each Pyrex that he owned had a story and he cherished every single piece that he created over, I think like he was retired for like a number of decades, like 2 or 3 decades. All he did was collect Pyrexes. In his basement, he created like custom shelves, and just a lot of love and attention went into those Pyrexes, right? And yes, they're Pyrexes, like they're, baking dishes at the end of the day, but it meant a lot to him as a collector. Moving on to the second kind of collector, which is a polygamous collector. You generally have many different brands in your collection. You have a nice diversification in your collection. You have some Chanel, you have some Fendi, you've got some Coach, you've got Hermes, you've got Miu Miu, Prada, Loewe, so on and so forth. So why do certain people only collect one brand versus a ton of different brands? I'll use myself as an example. I'm a hoarder. Yes, I know I'm a handbag hoarder. The first step I have recognized I do have a problem, but I do diversify amongst all of the legacy brands such as Chanel, Celine, Saint Laurent. I had Fendi, I had Loewe that has since left my collection, and I haven't really touched those major conglomerate brands in a long time, but where I really go hard is the mid-range indie brands such as Florent, Atelier Auguste, Sangmom, MZ Wallace, etc. And I have a whole entire playlist of luxury alternatives in the mid-range section. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Lots of great options there if you are not looking to spend thousands of dollars on a singular bag. However, I'm kind of weird about this, but I also tend to stay away from the legacy mid-range brands such as Longchamp, Coach, Furla, Kate Spade. And then I think I also looked at Lensol, which also is a French mid-range or lower range heritage brand, and I wasn't a fan. Then on the other spectrum, which I'm a little crazy, I go even harder with Hermes. And of course, for those of you who have been with me for a while, you know how hard I go with Hermes, especially when I step inside a store in Paris. And for those of you who are new to my channel, I have a whole entire Hermes playlist. Go check it out so you will see how nuts we are, me and my girlfriends, and doing a girls trip to Paris. And while you're there, going down the Hermes playlist, go check out the luxury alternative playlist as well. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know you are new so I can welcome you to my channel. For those of you who will come back and again and watch my videos all the time, it just seems like you enjoy me blabbering. I don't know why you would, but if you do, hit that subscribe button, because 80% of you are not hitting the subscribe button so that you can come back and see the random unboxings I do with Hermes, as well as me just rambling about, stupid topics like this. I don't know. And of course, if you are returning, glad to hear, you know what to do. I rely on you every single week. As I said before, there is no right or wrong answer. You do what you want with your own money, but here is my logic. I choose to spend money on Hermes because I appreciate the rich heritage and the history and the consistent quality and the art of the craftsmanship, which in turn equates to monetary retention decade over decade. Their designs and their aesthetics also fits my personal style, which is pretty minimal and somewhat elegant. I like to think I'm elegant. And of course, not flashy, which is just pretty much how I generally dress as well. I have a healthy variety of Hermes bags. I want to say the only repeat I have is maybe the Kelly. Other than the Kelly, I do not have any repeats on Hermes bags, meaning I don't have 3 different sizes of Lindy's. I don't have 3 different sizes of the Evelyns, so on and so forth. But then on the other spectrum of Hermes, part of me, the other side of me, wants to explore innovation, which is where the mid-range indie brands come in, because they are a lower dollar range, which when I say low, by no means is it cheap. But I can then explore new independent brands that come out with super cool designs. And I want to say like Polen is probably the perfect example, but as of today, I know they're much more well-known and much more mainstream. But if you were talking about Polen even 7 or 8 years ago, nobody knew who Polen was. They're definitely one of the first industry disruptors. Unique designs with great craftsmanship at fantastic prices, right? Again, at least back in the day, it was like under $500. And yes, I know they've had quality issues. Personally, everything I have experienced over the years have been fine. Like I never had any quality issues or negative experiences with them in general. Then you have a whole entire slew of brands that followed and peppered the industry, such as Atelier Auguste, The Horse, Maison de Sabre, if I'm saying that correctly, Demillier, Strathberry Saint-Mang, and then Oleata, and the list goes on and on. Yes, they probably started around the same time as Polen did, but Polen really paved the way for all of these other brands for us consumers to be much more open to trying out their brand. I also did a whole entire video on 10 reasons why you should or should not buy a mid-range micro brand. So go check that out after this video. I'm giving you a bunch of homework apparently. So there you have it. Again, these are just my thoughts, observations, and opinions. Feel free to agree or disagree. Like, what kind of collector are you? Are you a monogamous collector or are you a polygamous? Polygamous? I've been saying that word so many times, I already lost track. Anyways, also, have you changed over the years? It's not like you have to be one or the other forever. You could change, right? And that's part of the handbag journey. So, hope you really enjoyed that. Life is hard. I want to help you save time and money so that you can somehow adult easier and hopefully less than retail. I'll see y'all next time.